At this time, I'd like to call the Academic Goals and Instructional Improvement Committee to order. And we'll begin with a roll call.
You've got to get one to buy into.
Dr. Beebe.
Here.
Dr. Beebe is present.
Good to meet you.
Here. Ms. Bopey is present. Ms. Bradford is not in attendance. Mr. Garvey. Here. Mr. Garvey is present. Mr. Gio.
Present.
Mr. Gio is present. Ms. Hill.
Present.
Ms. Hill is present. Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee is not in attendance. Dr. Moranti.
Present.
Dr. Moranti is present. Ms. Orange Jones.
Present.
Ms. Orange Jones is present. Mr. Romer. Mr. Romer is present. Ms. Smith.
Present.
Ms. Smith is present. And Mr. Chasson.
Present.
Mr. Chasson is present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone here this afternoon, and hopefully things will go smoothly and I won't have that baptism by fire. Thank you. And I'd like to welcome our student representative, Peyton. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Your first item is on page 1, item 2.1, consideration of the authorization of course providers for course choice. The department recommendation is to approve.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And then we have 2 public comments.
And
I have a
3.
question.
I have a question.
thank you. May I introduce, Madam Chair? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, members. As you know, by law, the state is authorized, or the BESE is authorized to approve providers of individual courses for students across the state. And I want to talk a little bit about the program, its history, what it is accomplishing today, and then what you have in front of you. The program was conceived under a simple idea that in today's world, there is no reason for any individual to be confined in what they learn by the walls of whatever building they're in. And traditionally, we have provided kids with courses that they can get in their school, but we know that the demands of today's adult world are much more complex than that. Secondly, we know we have some great providers of experiences in Louisiana and sometimes without Louisiana, whether it's online or in person, that can help our kids get what they need. I've spent the last 6 months visiting some of the course providers around our state, some of them online and some of them in person. I can think about a couple that I've seen and tell you about. Bard Early College in New Orleans, which is providing low-income kids a full year of dual enrollment credit. I visited Associated Builders and Contractors out here on Highland Road, which is providing kids full certification as $45,000 a year electricians and welders. I've received communications from parents in rural communities whose kids do not have access to world language courses that they can now take online, ensuring that they get the top scholarship. All of these are just benefits in the hands of kids, and we're trying to provide ways for them achieving these benefits. Now, in the program's original year, you approved 45 providers to provide a very wide range of courses. That was the foundation that we needed to provide kids these basics. At the same time, there are niche areas where our portfolio of courses is missing. And this year we felt it was responsible for us to go try to find providers in these niche areas. And specifically, they are advanced math, special education services, world language, and career education. You see in front of you, therefore, providers in areas such as advanced placement calculus, for us to begin to meet that advanced math need. Occupational and physical therapy, for us to provide supplemental services sometimes not available in remote communities. Career education in high demand areas, specific areas like welding, but also general areas like career skills and introductory career coursework. World language, so that kids across our state can have access to Spanish, for example, that allows them exposure that they might not otherwise have and allows them to complete their TOPS requirements. So you don't see as many course providers in front of you as you did last year, and you don't see as a wide range a set of courses. This issue has been debated in a lot of different public forums. I'm sure it will in the future. I ask you to continue to provide our kids with the needs that suit them as individuals. That's all this does. happy to talk about specifics. I know we'll also probably hear from some folks involved in the program. I'll be happy to talk about what I think the benefits of those programs are, but I appreciate your willingness to, again, talk about this program and entertain these proposals, and I look forward to the discussion. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Superintendent White. We have first Michael Matterson from Benjamin Franklin High School. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Michael Masterson. I teach math and computer science at Ben Franklin High School. I'm glad to be here and see you all. Dr. Rusnak, our principal, couldn't be here. He's out of state at another conference, and he wanted me to extend his warm regards. He's really excited about course choice and the opening of course choice so that Ben Franklin can be a course provider. Ben Franklin has a long track record of developing and providing advanced placement courses on the topics given out by the College Board, AP courses. This year, we're offering 23 out of the 29 AP courses. And last year, out of 770 students in all 4 grades, our students took 860 AP tests. So it's something that we feel we have a lot of expertise in. What we're proposing is to start a pilot program next year offering AP courses in an online hybrid format. This would be delivered online with meetings optional once a week for students to come in and meet with their teachers. And what we're proposing to start with is a course in advanced math. We want to open our doors to the community. We want more students to have the option to have an experience with Ben Franklin teachers and to benefit from our expertise in AP delivery. And so we're asking for approval as a course choice provider. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I have some
Appreciate
questions
it.
for this speaker. So you talked about a hybrid model and it being optional for them to come in for meetings. Do they have to come in for the meetings, or will students who are in maybe Bossier Parish, which is very far away from you, be eligible to be part of your classes?
The meetings in person are optional. They're not required. What we found in developing online courses over the last decade, in education, is that students who have an opportunity to meet their instructor at least once report that they have a better experience in the class. And arguably they have better success by being able to at least meet their teacher once. Then of course there are other students who actually want to come and do work every week, and if they can manage the transportation so that we can do that, we'll provide that as an option each week.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that your high school was awarded with an honor, like a national honor, maybe multiple ones?
Yes, well, we've been a blue ribbon high school in the past, and we were very highly ranked nationally. 55 was the rank recently, and ranked #1 in Louisiana.
Well, I appreciate this idea with this high school in particular, that it's done so well, that students from across our state, that it's not limited in time and space for just the kids who live in the area to attend, but that all kids would have an opportunity to have such a wonderful education. So I appreciate that you guys are interested in being a part of it and your participation in it. So, and one of my BESE members promised me that she would take me to your school. So I'm going to take Miss Orange Jones up on that and look forward to visiting with you in person.
Great. Be sure to look me up. Thanks very much.
Dr. Morente?
Sure.
I'm curious to expand that thought a little bit. If you have students who sign up for one of the courses, and let's say they're out of the city and they can't be there
Right.
for a consultation with a teacher one-on-one, are you considering any alternate means, video conferencing or some way that they could have one-on-one sessions if they're not located there?
Yes, typically an online course is asynchronous, meaning that the activity and communication doesn't all happen at an agreed upon time where everybody is present.
Right.
However, an online course typically does include an opportunity for that once or twice a week. So there would be, for example, technologies such as WebEx conferencing, or Google Plus has some services where one can meet and see all the people in the meeting on little video screens on their big screen. And so that's something that we would certainly do. However, the bulk of the coursework is done in this asynchronous fashion with a lot of communication, but not necessarily at an agreed upon time.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair.
If we could have Dr. James Finney, and if Ms. Gloria Bailey could be available next. Ms. Bailey, if you could come up front also.
Good afternoon. My name is James Finney. If the department is unable or unwilling to provide any meaningful oversight to the existing course choice program, it would be irresponsible to add any new providers. Concentrate on providing a small handful of excellent choices instead of as many programs as possible. The object is not to transfer as much money away from traditional school districts to private hands as possible. The emphasis should be on providing every student, particularly in poor and rural parishes, opportunities to courses that their systems can't provide. And I have yet to see evidence that that's being done in a meaningful way. Tell us how many students are participating in each of the existing programs. Tell us how you'll define success and measure it. Mr. Guillot stopped me in August when I tried to ask several questions of Mr. White. I'm still waiting for those answers, and last time I checked, it was January. So stop the expansion until you fix the accountability and transparency. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Finney.
If I may, I don't have any comments for you, Dr. Finney. Thank you. For members of the board, the accountability system that has been built in actually means that for the first time we will have a report for you and updated information anytime so that you may approve or not approve of a course provider. But I realized in hearing my colleagues in the Counselor Assistance Center speak on this subject at the MFP Task Force chaired by Mr. Guillot that they are doing work that is not often talked about in the course choice program, which is that 5 veteran counselors overseen by Assistant Superintendent Bradford on a daily basis are speaking with parents and, just as important, with our counselors in the schools, helping them to work through not just course choice, but what all of the options available to kids across the state. They're providing an invaluable service that's a part of this, and you haven't had a chance to hear from them about their work, and so we thought it would be good if we would sign up and have a presentation, a brief presentation about what they do in this aspect of the course choice program. Apologies for taking up time. Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you. And if Dimitri Malikos could come up to the table also. Ms. Bailey, thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much, and thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak on behalf of Course Choice and the Counselor Assistance Center. I have been a Course Choice counselor since the inception in March of 2013. And to tell you a little bit about what we have been doing, the group of us, we have been working diligently with parents and with schools and with the students to field calls and answer questions and to be able to help them with any problems that they may have. For instance, we have occasions where there are school districts that do not have certified foreign language teachers, and as you know, that's a top requirement. But those schools that do not have foreign language teachers, or those students are allowed to take courses online. For instance, if I may, I would like to tell you about one school in particular, one from Claiborne Parish, Homer High. We have Course Choice had made it possible for at least a cadre of students, maybe 100 or more, to be able to take Spanish 1 and Spanish 2 online when they didn't have any certified foreign language teachers in their area. Also, we have one student I can remember in particular that was a student that wanted to major in medicine, and he wanted to be able to take Latin. So he was able to take Latin 1 and 2 online at his school. And I think that that was so great. That's something that maybe was not going to be afforded to that student before now. We have at a school in Orleans Parish, Burma Elementary School, Martin Burma, the children there are doing, from what I'm told, very well. These students are taking Algebra 1 in 8th grade and getting high school credit for it just simply through Course Choice online. So we have done many things since the inception in March, and we have called and emailed parents and students in excess of like about 4,000 students. So we have really reached these kids, and in my opinion, I think that Course Choice is one of, and that's my experience as a school counselor, as a former school counselor, my Course Choice is one of the most beneficial programs that's been offered to students in Louisiana to date. So I'd like to also let you know that smaller school districts that don't have anyone to, the children might not have a chance to take advanced math, then they can take that through Course Choice. They may not be afforded the opportunity to take the advanced sciences at their schools. Then they're afforded that opportunity through Course Choice. So whether you know this or not, this has been a tremendous experience for the students in the state of Louisiana. And once again, I'd like to thank you for affording me the opportunity to speak on behalf of Course Choice.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey, for the wonderful job that center is doing. Thank you. And if we could have Mr. Greg Kinson come up. Mr. Dimitri.
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Dimitri Melikos with U.S. Heritage Power Sports. Here in lieu of Joe Doshbach, our educator who is responsible for the program. U.S. Heritage Power Sports is a manufacturer who has come to Louisiana through Louisiana Economic Development incentives. One of our biggest obstacles in deciding, even though the state has excellent benefits for us to come here and manufacture and export, one of our biggest issues is labor, and specific labor for advanced manufacturing. Well, through Course Choice, what we've been able to do is tie in a few programs where we can now start building our base of employees through advanced education in the high schools, continuing on into advanced placement courses for community colleges. For example, Course Choice allows us to start in high school giving introductory courses in advanced manufacturing and the history of manufacturing in this country. We're able to get students interested in career paths that maybe they're not aware of. Good paying career paths with vocational education and STEM courses being at the forefront. We will be instructing NCCER accredited courses, and we're also using the community colleges and community support centers such as Job One and Delgado with their underutilized resources to be able to teach students and get them trained for accredited courses through NCCER curricula. Year 3 of our project, we required 210 jobs to be filled. Now, these jobs are quality jobs as defined by the Louisiana Economic Development. These jobs will pay between $16.50 and $18.50 an hour and must include $1.25 of that hourly as health care benefits. We'd like to have a direct path and some assistance in getting students on the path for career education through STEM type curricula with accreditation through NCCER. The resources were all there for us to put together and connect the dots on. At the end of these courses, a student will have the opportunity to be employed not only by U.S. Heritage Power Sports, but by other manufacturers looking to come into the state that are also in need of the skill set required in advanced manufacturing. Thank you.
And for board members' knowledge, NCCER would be the National Center for Construction Education Research,
correct.
which is the gold standard in your field, manufacturing, construction, welding, et cetera, in terms of certification.
Correct. With that certification, a student, whether they decide to go on that particular career path with advanced manufacturing, as is our case, will be able to take that on to other fields through NCCER, providers and also employers.
Thank you.
I have
Thank you,
a
sir.
question for the speaker.
Yes.
How do you, I think that this is a great opportunity on lots of levels for the students to be exposed early on to possible paths in their lives that they may not have explored, and then also for the community. Anytime we give the right kind of skills to our students, then they can give back to the community. How do you anticipate that you will find the kids who best meet the needs, or that will fulfill your needs, but also communicate this out to kids who may be interested? So what do you foresee will be the path there?
I'm looking at this very simplistically, and just the efforts that we've done to put a couple oars in the water and small grassroots type efforts. I was surprised that at a youth job event in New Orleans, out of the 352 prospective students that attended, 89 signed up to get more information for what we were anticipating to offer through Course Choice. One thing that we can do well is the marketing aspect of it, and with Joe Doshbach being the educator and a former principal of a charter school, he has the component required on the education side to reach out. What I have done as the founder of the company and the chairman is reach out to community organizations such as Job One, Youth Training, and through Delgado to get feeder programs looking at us. Right now, for example, through Job One in New Orleans, not only are we utilizing their facilities that they have, even in an after-school type program to 7 o'clock, we can utilize their resources for internships, where as long as we are taking their students in, they're signed up with Job One, when we place the student that's come through our program into a internship or into an apprenticeship type program, Job One will pay that student up to 20 hours a week at $10 an hour for that internship. There are more resources available to us to feed students to come into our program than we're going to be able to handle, just from our preliminary work that we've done.
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to add one more.
Certainly.
I mentioned before underutilized resources that are available through the community colleges. Delgado in the Jefferson Parish campus has a welding lab, 42 stations. Anytime that I visited it, maybe it was a fifth full. We plan to utilize those resources that the community colleges are offering us and be able to feed them possible students that want to continue their education through the community colleges. There's more than enough out there resource-wise for us to be able to lean on and to bring in the students, educate them, and point them in a path that they may not even be aware is available to them.
I look forward to hearing back from your students in years to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I apologize. I was remiss in not reminding us of our 3-minute timing. So we will do that now. If Mr. Greg Ginsing and Mr. Paul Shalesi could please come forward. Mr. Gregg?
Hi, my name is Craig Gehring. I'm with ACT Mastery. We provide ACT and the ACT family of test preparation for schools throughout the state and throughout the country. I got started in ACT prep about 10 years ago. I'm a Baton Rouge resident and native, and I graduated from Baton Rouge High. In 2003, I made a perfect score on the ACT and SAT, and I immediately started. Parents were actually calling into Baton Rouge High wanting me to come prep their kids. And the majority of these students were short of tops, trying to reach college eligibility levels. And I found that the typical ACT prep program they'd get in the bookstore was not meeting the needs of the average Louisiana student. Eventually, I developed a program called ACT Mastery, which is a college readiness prep course to help the students do well in the ACT. And since that, we've added to our catalog a work keys training component to help on the career readiness side. We have a good deal of experience working with schools throughout the state. This year, we worked with schools in about 25% of the districts in Louisiana. And, there's a specific set of challenges that the average Louisiana student has, which we're able to help them with. We focus a lot on remediation and giving them the skills that they need to be able to succeed in college or in the career of their choosing. We are, all of our data and our program is derived based on data on Louisiana students. And we're excited about the prospect of being considered as a course choice vendor and having the opportunity to make this service available to more students throughout the state who currently are not able to access it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Perfect timing, too. Mr. Paul.
I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity to come before you today. My name is Paul Shalazy. I'm with DJ School of Beauty. We're a cosmetology and esteology school. We've actually been in business since 1964. We are proposing to actually provide the freshman part of the cosmetology course for high school seniors. We are an accredited school. We're overseen by the National Accrediting Commission of Career Arts and Sciences. Over the past 2 years, the most recent reporting year, 97% of our graduates licensed. The previous year, 100%. We have 100% job placement for 4 years running right now. We are very fortunate. Our education director is not just licensed to teach cosmetology. She has a degree in education from Nichols. She has designed a curriculum for our freshmen that gives a solid foundation, not just in cosmetology, but also business and professional ethics and goal setting, which are things that anybody needs, regardless of whether you're going to continue in cosmetology or not. We're actually proposing being able to do this as basically a fall and spring semester for the 200 hours. And we're hoping to be able to provide this for Louisiana students starting in the next award year.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. If we could please have Renee Buras and Patrick Whittam come forward, please.
Hi, my name is Renee Burris, and this is my partner, Miss Sandy Morgan, and we are representing Academic Access. And we are proposing to offer 2 math courses for course choice, Math Essentials and Advanced Math. But I think what might make us a little bit different is that we have a number of students that enter college on a regular basis having to take developmental math courses because they just don't have the background or the ACT score to go into college algebra. So our Math Essentials, we have talked with North Shore Technical Community College, and we have, I guess, a letter of intent from them that we can dually enroll developmental courses, Math 91 and 92, so that students can complete those developmental courses through Math Essentials while they're in high school, so that when they leave high school, they can actually go into college algebra and not start off behind. They can start off right on target. And then with math, advanced math, the students that are eligible for that will be able to gain a college algebra credit while they are in high school and start off a little ahead when they get to college.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm here with the Louisiana School for Math, Science, and Arts virtual school, and we're halfway through the pilot year. And I'm just going to give you a very brief update on how this year has gone for us. We've been delighted. The 600 students enrolled in our curriculum are doing extremely well. We have 23 in year-long AP, computer science, European history, psychology, 402 students taking foreign languages, Spanish 1, 2, and 3, French 1 and 2, physics, advanced math. So the curriculum is working very well for these students. And it impressed me that 40% of the students are coming from AB schools. So it's meeting curricular needs that we know exist in the state. And I think that's an important thing to consider. I also want to just address the quality assurance that is in place. Leslie Elliott-Smith is the director of our program. She communicates regularly with the office here in the Department of Education, responds to their requests and needs. All of our courses are assessed according to the national standards of quality matters. They also meet all the state standards, and we apply all of our courses for AP College Board as well as for the Athletic Association. All of our students keep one office hour per day so that students can have contact via phone, video conferencing, or email to interact with that teacher. Instructors submit monthly course statistics for every course they instruct, as well as detailed failure reports, IEP reports, and call logs to the director of our program. Also weekly, the instructors, or more as needed, email and have phone contact with the student's school so that we can continue to build that connection between the student and the teacher, online teacher, but also the student and the resources that are available in his or her school. And there are other factors involved, but I certainly want this board to understand that the quality assurances that you would expect as the Department of Education, as the BESE board, are in place for the online providers. The expectations are there, and the opportunities for us to meet those standards.
Might I make a comment real quick? I need to turn myself in. My son, who is in 5th grade,
yes, sir,
participates in high school Spanish 1 through your program, and it's been excellent for him. It's and we've had a lot of interaction with the teacher. Interestingly, people always think it's a kind of a sterile relationship. We've had a lot of back and forth with her directly, and then she with my son interfacing, and so it's been a very, very good experience, and I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. If I could please have the last three presenters, Robert Plotrin, Stephanie Tremaine, and Danny Garrett. If you could please come to the table. And Mr. Robert, I apologize for mispronouncing your name.
My name is Robert Kluot. I'm the Director of Education and Training for the Pelican Chapter of Associated Builders and Contractors. I'm also the former superintendent at one of our local parishes here, so I'm speaking not just on behalf of what we're doing with Course Choice, but on the program itself, because I just think it's critical that we do everything we can to offer every student every opportunity they have to be successful in life, whether they're going to leave high school and go to a secondary institution or they're going to get into the workforce. In our case, at Associated Builders and Contractors, we're training industrial crafts. And a gentleman earlier mentioned NCCER, which is the National Center for Construction Education and Research. We happen to be the founders of that organization and that curriculum, and I would tell you, anyone graduating in that curriculum, it has the rigor in it that will allow a student to be successful as a hand at any one of the crafts in the industrial corridor. I would tell you, if you want to look at success or you want to measure success, I will invite you to come speak to our students that we have in the Course Choice program, talk to their parents, talk to those educators that are getting them back at the school. that's where you find out if you're really successful or not. And at the end of the day, these students have the opportunity either to graduate from high school with a certification, where they can step into the workforce immediately, or they can go on to a post-secondary institution and further their education. I can't say enough how much I appreciate that opportunity for our students in our state. It's critical. Of course, I don't have to tell you that the workforce shortage is critical also, and Associated Building Contractors is very much involved in trying to shore up the workforce with somewhere between $60 and $80 billion worth of work being forecast throughout Louisiana. And how do we staff that workforce? We're going to have to staff it with our young people and train those folks. I mean, it's one thing to say we've got jobs available. It's another thing to say, have we trained anyone for those jobs? And I'd like to see our folks here in Louisiana get all those jobs. And that's basically what we have to offer here. And if there's anything I could do to further this along, I'm here to answer your questions.
Thank you. Ms. Moranti? I have a question. Am I correct in my understanding that you're based in Baton Rouge?
Yes, sir.
And your classes are all in the Baton Rouge area?
Yes, sir.
Is there any plans to come to the New Orleans area?
Actually, there's a chapter just like ours in New Orleans, and I think they kind of got a little late start on trying to get involved in this process. We're very hopeful that we can get them involved. They are separate from us, but of the same makeup. We're also looking at portability of some of these classes, and I think that's going to be critical, that we can make some of these things portable so that in a task force meeting, we had a gentleman that mentioned that he's from a small high school and how difficult it is to have these kinds of lab trainings in the school and how expensive they are. If we could figure out a way to make this portable to those rural locations that those students can benefit from it, I think that's going to be critical, and we're working toward that end.
Well, if I can help you bring it to New Orleans, please let me know. Don't hesitate to call.
I will do everything I can to help you. I do know all the folks over there, and we have worked with them in the past.
Thank you.
Ms. Buffy?
I was just curious as to how many students you're reaching with your program.
We just have 35 right now, so it's a start, and I'm looking at success building upon success. I think it's critical that we do this. And one thing I think that we started everything, this course choice, quite honestly, started out with a very negative connotation in our local school system. And I think we need to overcome that. I think we need to let folks know that this is beneficial for your kids. Forget politics, forget where you stand anywhere. Let's do what's best for kids. That's why I'm here.
Thank you, sir. We really appreciate your time. Thank you. Mr. Tremaine.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Tremaine. I'm the Executive Director of the Bard Early College in New Orleans, which is an approved course choice provider. We're in the middle of our pilot year with course choice, and we do something a little bit unique, but that builds on a lot of the themes that my colleagues in the other course choice programs mentioned. Bard Early College is a dual enrollment campus in the heart of New Orleans, in which over 85% of open admissions high schools in the city send students to us for the second half of the school day. And in the 11th and 12th grades, thanks to course choice, those students are finishing the first year of college in time to also finish a high school diploma. The courses they're completing are duly accredited, and the credits are nationally transferable, and they're free for the students. And I want to make the point that at the end of our first semester, we've seen real promise from this. From a real and extraordinary range of students that are seeking it out. These are not just the valedictorians of the city, but students for whom an opportunity to step into a real college classroom while they're still in high school means something about ambition for them and allows them to vision being a college student now. And I want to make the point that course choice is driving innovation in a lot of the conversations you've heard today, but it's also driving innovation in higher education, and I think that's really important. And I think it's been very easy for colleges like my own, Bard College in New York, to be concerned about the rates at which first-generation students aren't accessing college and aren't completing. And policies like course choice enable us, instead of waiting for students to come to us, to find ways to go to them and to really get involved in secondary education in really innovative and collaborative ways. Again, this is just January, but of the more than 100 students enrolled in New Orleans, we've seen over $4 million in scholarships they've earned already. Over 90% have already applied to a 4-year school, and the admissions process isn't really underway in earnest. So we're really excited about what this can do, and we're really excited about the dialogue that is set in place between the high schools and the college.
Ms. Buffy?
Well, I'm going to take Mr. Garvey's approach and ask when you're going to come to Southwest Louisiana, since he's always
They're
trying
busy
to
right
take
now in
programs
the
to
New
New
Orleans area.
So,
We'd be delighted.
No distractions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, if I may, before Mr. Garrett, members, I just want to, I'm happy that everybody came. When you think about what I'm going to call both advanced and remedial mathematics, what I'm going to call a full year of liberal arts education for a full year of college credit, expert instruction that puts real opportunity in the hands of workers, be it in cosmetology, be it in welding, advanced manufacturing, be it in construction, are not just one of our states, but one of our nation's top high schools, opening its doors to provide in-person and online advanced placement content for the citizens of our state. I would say two things come to my mind. Our state has tremendous assets. If we get beyond the bounds of our daily work in the four walls of a school, we can provide our children with those assets. That's not a wild, out there education reform. That's just common sense because we love our kids. That's what course choice is. I'm not typically a very emotional person, as those of you who know me well know. This program makes me emotional. It inspires me. All of these people in my mind are an inspiration because they're the best of our state and they're offering their daily work to our children. It's our responsibility as policymakers, in my view, to make that available to them. And I thank all of them for being here today. They came from the far reaches of our state. Natchitoches, Mr. Woodham, thank you. And I thank you for taking the time to hear them and hear their stories and for being supporters of this program. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Barrios, if you can come forward while Mr. Garrett.
Dan Garrett, representing the Louisiana School Board Association. It may surprise many of you, but the School Board Association has actually supported, in effect, course choice for quite a number of years through the Louisiana Virtual School. It was really a model for the country. It was very forward-thinking. In fact, my son took his first LBS course in the fall of 2011 before course choice existed. He took a computer science class at his high school online. Through the transition to what we knew as Louisiana Virtual School through the course choice program, we've admittedly had some stumbles in the state in how we transitioned to a broader program. Today, in your Administration and Finance Committee, you adopted the recommendations of the MFP Task Force, one of which looks directly at creating a constitutional, sustainable funding mechanism for course choice. As Mr. Guillo wrote in his original recommendation, everybody's been patting you on the back, but you deserve it. You recognize that funding course choice through AG is simply not sustainable for the long run. It's one of the proposal on course choice is one of the reasons the School Board Association's representative on the task force voted in favor of it. I think, not to speak for the superintendents, but I think they were the same, that this proposal, which was finally hammered out after talking with various people, is one of the key reasons why the superintendents also supported the proposal. And I think that we have the opportunity, since we were one of the leaders with LVS, to make course choice workable and constitutional and even better than the LVS was. And we hope that we sort of continue this on in the future, because there is work to be done to make course choice fit within this proposal, but it's not insurmountable at all. I would have said it was insurmountable before the MFP task force, but after watching that diverse group of people come together on this proposal, I am assured that it is not insurmountable.
That's great.
Thanks. Great comment.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. Ms. Barrios.
Lee Barrios, St. Tammany. Vocational technical education is a commendable opportunity for students. I myself went to vocational school right before I went back to school to get my teaching degree and studied drafting. It cost me $35 a semester, a few miles down the road. Educators understand that not all students are going to be able to or want to go to college. Bottom line, though, is that public ed operates on limited dollars for unlimited students. Instead of funding traditional schools and districts to give them the capacity to offer the academic courses that some of these course choices are offering, that they would like to offer, we're spending millions of dollars for testing purposes, high-stakes testing, of which it's purporting to make every child college and career ready. I have no opposition to offering options for students when those options are not available. We do it in St. Tammany. If we don't have enough students in any given school for an accelerated course in, say, math, we have our own virtual capabilities and offer those by the certified teachers in the school system. And it's a much more efficient and economically efficient way of doing it, and they have access to those teachers. The problem is with the course choice that I have is that we're taking dollars and doing what private industry should be paying for themselves, rather than establish a collaboration so that these industries can come in and offer these vocational opportunities themselves. We're taking money from the public school system, which could be used to help these students academically, and these schools that don't have the tax base to pay for these, and giving it to these private industries. So I just have to state my opposition to a good bit of the course choice offerings. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barrios. BESE members, any additional comments? Sil?
Well, for me, my concern with the course choice program, which I strongly believe in concept that it's a good program, especially for students that are highly achievers. When we look at the low-performing students, and I'm going to use an example, when I was in New Orleans and I visited Walter Coyne High School. And those students were, of course, in a recovery school district. However, they were currently taking classes online, for example, Spanish, PE, social studies, science, etc. But when I walked in that classroom of approximately maybe 25 to 30 students, it was so disheartening to hear them cry out to me as a representative to say that they need help. They say to me, Ms. Hill, the material that we have here online, we don't have the help. The one teacher that we have in the classroom, she's not certified in multiple areas, so she don't have the time to give us the help that we need. However, me graduating is contingent upon me passing this course choice class online. And so for me as a representative, representing a population that is very rural and very impoverished, and that the course choice program doesn't really truly impact that population. And so what I did was, I called back home to Miami, which is one of the founders of Reform. And I spoke to some of the individuals in the local school district in Miami-Dade County. And I asked them about the course choice program that they have implemented in that city. And they told me, they say, Carolyn, the course choice is a good concept for those kids who are going to do dual enrollment, that are high performers. They're going to do well because they are disciplined. You have to be disciplined to do the program. But those kids that are behind, that need credit recovery, and they're taking these classes online, it's frustrating them, and they see an increase of dropout rate within that school district. And so for me, that concerns me with this program. And I hope that we are able to look into the program and have some safeguards in regards to those students that may not have the parental support. They may not have the support in the classroom of teachers that can stand there and actually help them move forward. And so that's my position on the course choice.
Doctor?
You called on me, or? You called on me?
Yeah, doctor.
Okay.
Dr. Beebe, I'm so sorry.
No, okay, I thought you were speaking to Mr. Gordon. I want to say that I've done somewhat of a paradigm shift as it relates to course choice because of the experience I have had with Vermilion Parish and the Collaborative District of Louisiana. And we're at a time in Louisiana where we're going to have to be competitive. I think we have an opportunity to run with course choice as superintendents, and we can provide the supervision. Now, I do have the question as it relates to expanding course choice to various individuals or groups. What do we do in the way of the evaluation of instruction? How can we maintain that accountability is in place? Because in light of the most recent report of a school system where there was an allegation of cheating, particularly in an online setting, it's as Ms. Hill pointed out, it is critical that we have a mechanism in place that students are not working online, Googling answers to questions. So I think that I'm still concerned about that accountability component. While I support opportunities for children, I think we need to be assured that our instructors are high quality, that we're holding them accountable to evaluation procedures. So I would just ask Mr. White to speak to those concerns.
Sure. I would say first that the vetting process that gets a provider to this stage is intense. There is first a paper application, then an interview process, then there's an independent panel. It's independent of the department after the interview, and only after that process is an organization brought to you. You then choose whether or not to approve these groups, and for those that are approved, they then enter into contractual negotiations with the state. Those contracts have academic performance terms in them. At the end of this year, you will receive a report. We have more up-to-date report on student performance and course choice than any other courses in the state. You'll receive a report. It will reflect the degree to which those goals were hit academically. Based on that, any provider that you feel like has not met the terms of doing business with the state, whether it's a public school like Ben Franklin or LSMSA, whether it's a private provider or what have you, BESE may vote to remove them, and after 3 years, just like a charter school, they come up for an official reauthorization process. But you will receive an annual report. In terms of courses, I first should note half of the providers are in-person providers, and I think that sometimes the reporting hasn't quite gotten this right. While there are online courses, and East Baton Rouge, you cited, provides some of them, and some of them are very good, half of the providers in course choice are person-to-person, and many of them are blended, like Ben Franklin, for example, offers a blended model, some person-to-person in the same room, some online. So most of this is just like a typical classroom, and that's what makes this so unique. For those programs that are online, there is always a teacher of record in a course choice course. There is an actual teacher. That is not always the case in online courses, and maybe some of the ones that you're discussing are more kind of distance learning type programs that happen to be done through a computer. We're talking about simulated classroom environments where actually, because, as was said earlier by my colleagues at Ben Franklin, it can take place at any point during the day, there tends to be more individual communication with the student than you would have during a typical time. We try to root out any concern through audits and reviews of this kind of problem that you're describing. We would bring that to your attention, and at the end of this school year, you will have a report of any of those violations, as well as groups not hitting their goals, so that you can make a determination if we have to.
No, and I'm very familiar, Superintendent White, because St. Martin has an online virtual program, but there is a component in place where there are test proctors there, and there are teachers who are there to provide guidance. If the student is working at home, then they can come into the facility to receive assistance. But again, what mechanism do we have in place do we send out staff to visit these groups or entities periodically? Because, I mean, just as the superintendent, I'm in and out of the schools, in and out of classrooms to make every effort to ensure that quality instruction is in place. So is there a mechanism in place to where you have staff who will go out and do periodic reviews as it relates to observing the instruction or the internship, if you will, or whatever the case may be?
Why don't I have Ken come up and detail this? Ken has years of experience in online instruction, and again, I want to emphasize that many of the courses we're talking about are typical in-person courses. But Ken, why don't we speak to Dr. Beebe's question?
And I just want to interject before he begins speaking that I realize that not are all online. Well, in this case, these are. Okay. So even as it relates to the construction, I think it's the Pelican group. So I'm trying to visualize, is there like an instruction component, and then at some point in time they would go in and meet with the instructor to carry out the skill or to demonstrate?
So, for example, I'll speak to it for 1 second. With the ABC Pelican chapter, there is in NCCR very specific tests. Those tests are standardized national assessments in construction trades. We then are able to use those to set academic goals and to measure their progress, and I happen to have done an on-site review myself at that facility. But Ken, why don't we talk about the overall process?
Yeah. Ken Bradford, Office of Content with the Course Choice Program. Dr. Beebe, to your point about accountability and monitoring the courses, you should know that as part of our agreement with all of our Course Choice online providers, we have access to every single online course that a student takes through the Course Choice Program. So if a student is taking an online course with the Louisiana School for Math, Science, and Arts, we have access to those courses with a username and password, and we can go in and we can monitor those online classes. And not only can we do that. And that was a practice that we did with the Louisiana Virtual School. Additionally, we have grade reports that are submitted by every online provider on the 1st and the 15th of every month. And the parents, the students, and the school site principal at each of those schools can go in and they can look at the dashboard and they can see how their students are doing. And not only can they see how their students are doing, we have the instructor's name in there and the contact information for that instructor. And they can reach out to the instructor of the course provider. So we do have those quality assurances in place.
Okay, thank you.
I think another quality assurance of the nature of this program, though, is that it's a choice. And so as time goes on, we know we have people participating in the pilot this year, but as time goes on, I think what's most powerful for me in making choices is feedback from others on how the product is operated, or in this case, the services of education. And so when I think about the accountability piece, we know that those providers, that if a less than high quality provider would get through, that they're not going to be successful if people aren't continuing to recommend them, which is very different from the way that our current system is that in most cases across the state, if you live in a certain school zone, you go to that school and you don't have any other choices. And so I think that the way that the program is built, the nature of choice, has a strong impact on the accountability factor that we're talking about.
Well, we have a motion and a second. Do I hear any objections to the motion?
Object.
Any others? Thank you. Motion passes.
Next item is on page 13, item 2.2, consideration of the test security irregularities report for the 2012-2013 school year. The department recommendation is to receive.
Is there a motion to receive?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Second. Discussion. And we have no public comments. Is there any objection to the motion? Hearing none, motion passes.
Next item is item 3.1 on page 30, Consideration of a status report on the Special Ed Advisory Panel. The department recommendation is to receive.
I so move.
A second.
Thank you. Discussion? Any objection to the motion? If not, motion passes.
Your next item is on page 33, item 4.1, consideration of revisions to Bulletin 741, Louisiana Handbook for School Administrators, to align high school graduation requirements with Act 359 of the 2013 regular legislative session, and approval of course equivalents for the Louisiana School for Math, Science, and the Arts. The department recommendation is to 1, approve as a notice of intent, and 2, approve course equivalents.
Is there a motion?
I move we receive the report.
Thank you. Second? Thank you. Any discussion?
Well, this is about something else. We had somebody who turned in a comment card on 3-1. Do you guys have a comment card there?
4-1, yeah. We're 4-1. Are you Yvette?
Well, when we finish this item, can we go back to it?
Sure. We do have a public comment by Yvette Armstrong for 4.1.
Mr. Romer, you said receive the report, but you would like to approve his notice of intent? And,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's
I was
correct.
on the, yes, please.
Gotcha. And approve the equivalent, yes.
Yes, I'm okay with that.
Ms. Armstrong.
Hi. I'm a little nervous.
There's a side door over here if you're going to do
This is impressive.
Good evening. Superintendent
Those are
White.
the demerits I received in high school. I appreciate y'all bringing those.
Ms. Armstrong.
I'm a little nervous, so bear with me. Good evening, Superintendent White, Betsy, board members, and others. My name is Yvette Armstrong. I am a blessed mother of 6 children, all boys. They are 16, 14, 10, 9, 5, and 4. They all attend New Orleans public schools. My boys are have great dreams. Football players, a doctor, a crane operator, a mathematician, and a talented artist. My crew is crazy, but they are very intelligent young men. I'm standing here today with parents from Baton Rouge and New Orleans, excited to present some 5,000 petitions, signatures from Louisiana across the state who believe and support raising the bar for our children. We thank you for you adopting the more complex high standards, being thoughtful as we continue to implement the standards so we know how our children are doing, being bold for the kids in the state. As a parent, it's my job and duty to believe in their dreams and hopes and to make sure they get what they need to achieve their personal goals. After Katrina, we really saw just how far behind the school system and the educational system had left them. It was then that I was determined to make sure this never happened again, not just for my kids, but to any child. When I heard about Louisiana Common Core state standards, I had hope for the first time in a long time. I wanted to be sure that other parents knew about them, and I decided to take the message to as many as I could. I was hands-on. The church, the grocery, the beauty store, the hair salon, and anywhere where anyone wanted to know about it. I let them know that our kids needed to be better educated and equipped. I was so excited to see so many people sign the petition in support of higher standards, making sure our kids won't ever get left behind again. I thank you for your leadership and know that we and some 5,000 other Louisianians are standing with you each time you believe in every child's ability to learn and to take action to successfully implement higher standards in Louisiana. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Morant?
Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Any comments?
Yes,
Mr. Garvey.
quick count and estimate tells me this is only about 1,500 signatures. So I'm wondering if next month can you bring the remaining 3,500? So we can just to double check your numbers so we can make sure. Okay.
Sarge Jones.
Just thank you so much for your voice, for your enthusiasm on such an important issue, and just for fighting for higher standards for your children and for all of our children. Really appreciate that.
We have a motion and a second to approve as a notice of intent. Are there any objections? Hearing none, motion passes.
So I would need a motion to reconsider item 3.1.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. So back to item 3.1 regarding the Special Ed Advisory Council report. We have a public comment.
Ms. Amanda Serpes.
Members, just to clarify on this, the item in front of you is a receive item that is receiving minutes from a panel meeting. So you do not have a policy decision in front of you. Not to say that we shouldn't discuss policies associated, just to say you don't have a decision on policy in front of you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amanda Serpes, and I thank you guys for going back and making this opportunity for me to speak. I was present at the SEAT meeting on December 19th, and was really excited about the conversations that we all had and being open to considering the opportunity for children with IEPs to be promoted with 4th and 8th grade. My question, I don't know if I can pose a question, if you guys can answer, or I know Ms. Boffey obviously was there, is the motion that was passed by Dr. Alleman regarding children with that were previously considered Lot 2 to have the IEP team determine. My understanding and the way the vote was perceived to me and fellow parents that were there and that we all were gave public testimony regarding is it to include all students in the 4th and 8th grade. And the motion here looks like it was passed for it's just to be considered for the 4th grade students. So I'm just trying to get some clarification on that because that's my idea on what the motion was and how it was passed, and we, kind of felt that was a really great opportunity.
Okay, so as your representative for the board on this panel, these are unofficial minutes, so these are minutes that both the co-chairs approved, and what you're referring to is the motion that was passed. The inspiration, I think, behind that motion was the new 8th grade policy. So this board in December passed a policy that's for 8th grade students. And so my take on the motion that we had, which we spent a lot of time in making sure that we got the motion right, because there wasn't a whole lot of clarity. There wasn't a whole lot of clarity initially, but that it was the decision that the board made in December about our new 8th grade promotion policies, that was the inspiration for the 4th grade. So does that answer the question that you have about 8th grade not being here?
Well, no, I realized that you guys approved the 8th grade, and it went to SEAP to discuss the 4th grade promotional, and we wanted to match the 8th grade to where it was to be open and expanded to all students with IEPs and not the ones that were formally Lot 2 students, since we don't have Lot 2 criteria anymore.
So the criteria that was used to determine Lot 2 hasn't gone away. We still have that criteria.
Right.
What Lot 2 is for the board members, and I know this is very in-depth conversation. So Law 2 was basically assessment. So for students who met a certain set of criteria, meaning where they fell with their disability, it indicated that they would have a special test. And so what we have been communicated to from the federal government is that we weren't allowed to have those tests anymore. And so what SEEP started, I believe, in December of 2012, and Ms. Devlin can correct me if I'm wrong. So over a year ago, the Special Ed Advisory Panel started having conversations about how we think about promotion and go about promotion for our students who fit the criteria that was once used to determine students taking a different test. And we spent over a year talking about that, and we're gonna, the policy will actually come up in a later agenda item. And so what I hear you saying is the notion that it would be all students with an IEP?
Exactly. And that was the discussion, and that was the public testimony that I know personally I gave, was it to give that opportunity for all students with IEPs. And I know other parents were there and then gave public testimony in their opinions on opening it up to all students with IEPs and not just the ones that fit into that Law 2 criteria. And so that's what we thought was going to be passed on to BESE as the recommendations of SEEP, because it was voted on and it was passed. So now when I read the minutes, I see that we're still using just the children with Law 2 criteria. So
well, unfortunately, we have to rely on my memory for now, because these are the unofficial minutes. When we go, this will be taken back to the larger SEEP panel at our next meeting, and I'm happy to discuss when the next agenda item comes up the different perspectives for the recommendation that SEEP wanted considered. And you'll see that the department had an opinion of what that should be, and they are recommending approval of a certain thing. I'm happy to discuss with the board the different perspectives that people on the panel had as well.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was clarified, because that wasn't a very important piece, was all students, and it opened up, a bigger window. So I just thought it was important to bring it up.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
have a question for
Amanda. You may
Yes, ma'am. So tell me, the organization that you represent feels that all students that have an IEP should have the same accommodations in regards to the assessment. I'm just trying to get a clear understanding.
Correct. We do believe that all children with IEPs have an individual need, and that's why they have an IEP.
Right.
So to section off, that's like a subsection of the bigger section. They all have needs, and and the remediation plan we all were really for is having, if they didn't pass that rigorous test, whatever that may be at this time, that they would have the opportunity to have a remediation plan. And we thought that all students would benefit from that remediation plan, and not just the children that were formerly in the Law 2 category, or still, I don't even know what it's called. That was a big discussion at SEEP also. It was like, what do you call those students now, since they're not Law 2? It was a big confusion. But yes, we do want all children to have the opportunity for promotion based solely on the IEP team, because those are the people that know the children the best.
Right.
So promotion and progression should be considered by them, and that's what we're ultimately wanting, to be heard on.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, now we need a motion to receive. Ms. Buffy, and we need a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, motion passes.
Next item is item 4.2, consideration of revisions to Bulletin 1566, pupil progression policies and procedures relative to promotion decisions for Law 2 eligible students. That's on page 54. The department recommendation is to approve as notice of intent, and we are passing out an amended policy.
So is there a motion to approve as a notion of intent?
I make that motion and want to offer the amendment, please, when time.
Thank you, Ms. Buffy. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Go ahead, Ms. Buffy.
I move that the board approve the policy as presented by the department, amending section 703A to read, The IEP team shall determine the promotion of each 4th and 8th grade student who is eligible for a Law 2 and does not meet the criteria for promotion on statewide testing based on policies contained in the local pupil progression plan. The promotion decision shall meet the procedural requirements in subsection B and shall be based on the consideration of information concerning each student's educational needs, including progress towards meeting annual IEP goals, performance on statewide assessment, and the general academic achievement and functional performance of the student. And Section 703B1 to read, the IE team shall meet once between the beginning of the last grading period of the previous school year and the end of the first grading period of the current school year to review and, if necessary, revise the student's IEP. The revised IEP shall include measurable annual goals, benchmarks, and short-term objectives in each content area for which the student is eligible for Law 2. And so, just to help you board members, these are improvements to the policy that was recommended by superintendents after they had an opportunity to see the policy online. And so this helps to clarify some things that are in practice already in terms of the role that pupil progression plays in promotion decisions at the local level. And then also the second part is the way that we would have had the policy is that people would have had to have 2 IEP meetings per year, but depending on the timing, that may not be necessary. And so superintendents helped us to clarify this relative to practices.
Do we have a second to that amendment?
I have a question.
And may I add to Ms. Bophy's framing comments as well, Madam Chairman? Thank you very much. Historically, just to take this way back, as Ms. Bophy said earlier, there has been a test administered to roughly 2% of the students in the state in place of the LEAP. It is a modified test. And essentially, we are one of about 10 states that has continued to have this practice for students with significant disabilities. The federal government has ended that practice, meaning all 50 states now are moving away from that toward providing the same assessment for all students for purposes of accountability. And the reason they've done that is that there was a very, I don't want to say loose, but an inconsistent use of determining which kids should have this 2% test and which kids should not. And even within Louisiana, there were parishes that had almost 5% of their kids in this category. There were parishes that had fewer than 1% of their kids in this category. So there was inconsistency here too. The problem is, if you do that, you have to acknowledge that on these tests, some of our kids with disabilities will struggle significantly. And now that we're going to the regular LEAP for such students. And so this is an attempt to say, okay, how will we deal with the fact that we don't want these kids to be caught in our promotion policies forever, stuck in 4th grade or stuck in 8th grade. We are saying that it should be, as Ms. Bophy outlined, a local process using the IEP for determining whether or not the student should move on, and they shouldn't be caught up because they're taking this harder state test. The position advocated in the comments before was that that should be the way it is for all special ed students, not just for these 2% kids. And we do disagree with that. We disagree with it because we believe that it establishes a standard, a relative standard, rather than an absolute standard of proficiency for students with disabilities, most of whom we think should be pursuing that traditional standard. That's the thrust of it. I know it's very labyrinthine, many layers of this, and wanted just to try to spell it out in my own words. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Moranti, may I add to that? So, as I said when we were discussing the last item, the panel met for over a year talking about what this policy should be for students who are eligible or meet that Law 2 criteria, but there would no longer be a test. And so there was a lot of discussion about how you handle such an instance, and I was very proud of the department in terms of the level of engagement with the stakeholders, that this was a process that took a lot of time. And what the panel heard and what the department heard from the panel was that this decision should be made by those who are closest to the kids. Now, when it came to the decision of where we fell, exactly with the recommendation, there were people on the panel who believed that that it should be extended to all students with IEPs. And so I think it's important for those of you who are not aware of special ed, that might be a student who is has speech therapy. And so there's a different, when you think about special ed, there are different levels even within special ed, and I think that that's something to consider. So you'll notice in the minutes that the approval was not endorsed by the panel. I was one of the people who didn't support what the panel was trying to achieve, which in terms of moving it to all students with special ed. But in terms of the notion of endorsing 8th grade, that is something that I believe everybody on the panel thought was a good decision on our part and that we should do. And also that they liked what the department had to say, but they were interested in taking it to all kids with IEPs. It's not something that I can support, but it is something that I wanted to make sure as your representative on SEEP that you understood the nature of the conversation.
Thank you, Ms. Buffy. Ms. Hill.
Wow. I'm so disappointed I wasn't participating in those meetings. But
our special ed advisory panel meetings
Yeah.
take place. They're open meetings. You can come
But
anytime
for
you
fut-
like, and
right.
it's tweeted out by the department.
Yeah, so for future reference, I'll make sure I'm there. But however, for an individual that currently is truly engaged with IEPs and reevaluations of students with that have IEPs, my concern is that what Ms. Bofi just said, you do have some students that will have an IEP, that the IEP may be speech therapy. But then you may have some that may have multiple exceptionalities where they may have speech therapy and they may have a specific learning disability, maybe ADHD. So some of them have multiple exceptionalities, not just maybe one. However, my concern is, and they may not meet the Law 2 requirements. So my concern is that for those, for the Law 2 students, if it's going to be rigorous, if the test is going to be too rigorous for them, I think we need to look into what about those students that do have IEPs that may have multiple exceptionalities. Maybe they need a speech therapist, and they may be ADHD, where they may need extra accommodations in the classroom, or extra help on a test, or extra time with their homework. So I guess that's my concern, because I do this every day. So I see the population that we're serving on a day-to-day basis. And so, for example, I'm doing some reevaluations right now in some schools where I'm looking at some students' grades to determine if I'm going to waive their reevaluation or not. But most of the students that I have, their grades are very poor. And so therefore, I need to do a reassessment to see why they're not performing where they should be performing based on their grades before I give them a waiver, because there may be some other issues at hand that may not have been addressed in the initial IEP or the initial assessment. So I guess that's what I'm saying. I'm so upset that I wasn't participating in the meetings. But however, I think we need to look into that and see how can we adjust students with multiple exceptionalities in regards to this. Because I know the group wanted to open up to all, and maybe all may not apply. However, there are going to be some that does.
Now, and I want the board to understand, and I'm not sure if this is what you're talking about or not, Ms. Hill, but I want the board to understand that students have IEPs. With those IEPs, you also have accommodations, and that those accommodations are given for testing. So that's
Homework
not
assignment or extra time in
right.
the classroom.
Those accommodations,
etc.
yes,
Correct.
those accommodations apply to testing. The policy that we were talking about is the promotion policy. So how do you make decisions about a child going from 4th grade to 5th grade? And I mean, one of the most powerful testimonies I heard from a parent was about the child's summer, right? Because before, if you didn't pass, then you would have summer remediation, and then if you took summer remediation, then there was the opportunity to advance. And so the point that the parent made is that while summer remediation can be beneficial, that there's other aspects of or other opportunities that parents can provide outside of that summer remediation to enhance the children's ability to be successful. Or, at sometimes the example was given that sometimes families use that to have extra therapy available to kids. And so if kids get caught in this requirement where they have to go to summer school, then they miss out on other things. And so what we decided is that there's no one recipe, right? I mean, our kids, especially our students with special needs, there's various things that we can offer them to help them be successful. And by being too strict in our policy and I guess being too formal in our policy, where it would, one policy would have to apply to all kids, with the IEP team making this decision for our students who meet the criteria, they're able to think about the child overall and what's available for the child and what that child needs so that they could be successful. So there's very rich discussions. I'd love to have other BESE members present about how you balance what the child needs to be successful academically with the other child's needs, and just figuring out how to address those tensions. And we really felt like the IEP team was the best to make that particular promotion decision, which ultimately is the case from year to year. But because of high stakes testing, it kicks it into our court, kicks the ball into our court as far as the tests are concerned for promotion policies.
We have 5 public comment cards, so I'd like to invite Amanda Surpass, Sean Fleming, Ashley McReynolds, Darla Louvier, and Cherie Havens to come forward, please.
Madam Chair, I ask permission to go first since I need to leave, and I'll be brief because I need to leave, and I want to respect y'all time. These are some of the parents who have expressed. I'm Sean Fleming with Louisiana Developmental Disabilities Council. I shared a graph with y'all. It has 2 sides, and it speaks to the conversation on the ultimate promotion decision of graduation. And I think these ladies are going to share with you their perspectives and ask. The basic ask is, I think what Ms. Bonfrey was sharing is what parents are saying, is the IEP team they have the best understanding of what the child needs. And what was just shared is correct. Louisiana has been using an alternate assessment, but the other part of that, and what these graphs will basically display, is the percentage of all students graduating in 4 years and the percentage of students with disabilities graduating in 4 years. And what is significant about this is if you look at the difference between the kids with disabilities, we only graduate 29% of students with disabilities, whereas the national average is 57%. So while other states certainly are using standardized tests, they're not using them to make promotion decisions and graduation decisions like Louisiana is. So if someone in Louisiana goes to Texas, their student is very likely to graduate just because of policies, not because of what their student learns. And I want to make another comparison that's not on here, but it's in Louisiana's report to the federal government from 2011. On comparison of students with disabilities NAEP scores, because we're always comparing ourselves to other states. And I just wanted to make sure y'all knew that Louisiana only excludes 7% of students with disabilities from their NAEP, whereas the national average is about 23 to 24%. So you're not comparing apples to apples. And when I look at this, and I say the significant difference in graduation rates, and the same thing is you can't get into high school if you can't get out of 8th grade. You can't get into 8th grade if you can't get out of 4th grade. It's because of our policies, and it's exactly what Ms. Bovey was saying, was our policies are extremely strict, and other states don't do that. Other states say, yes, we want you to take a test, we want you to have accountability, we want everybody to be tested and taught the same thing, but we recognize that there are individual differences. And those differences are not just with kids who were deemed Law 2, which won't make any sense anymore because there's not a Law 2 test. So you're separating out 2% of a population for no apparent reason other than to give them special consideration for promotion, and parents are not understanding that, because if, then should they fight to be in Lot 2? Or what difference does that make? So the request is to expand the department's recommendation to make it all students for promotion decisions, to not make it just transitional into the park, but to make it forever here on after, and to make it not only 4th and 8th grade, but to make it for diploma decisions as well. And I'll answer any questions if you like. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fleming. Ms. Surpass.
Okay. Hi, I'm Amanda Surpass again. I'm a parent of a child with a disability. I just want to thank Ms. Boffey again for pointing out the intent of the SEEP and discussion that we had, and that of the parents that we represent. And I do also want to say that yes, that there are children that have IEPs that have just speech therapy, and that requires their IEP. But what we're asking for is the IEP team. If the IEP team says that that child will need to pass the park assessment for progression, then so be it. We're not asking for an excuse to not take the, or not to pass the test. If the IEP team says this child is capable, then that child will pass, and then let that be an IEP team decision. So we're not saying all kids with IEPs are not expected to pass. Of course, we want them to pass and expect, and have hopes for them to pass. So I just wanted to point that out as well. But I do have a letter that was written by a very different friend of mine that cannot be here, and I would like permission to read that. Her name is Ann Galliano, and she's from Slidell, Louisiana. Dear BESE members, my son Rory is 10 years old and is living with autism. He is currently in the 4th grade in a St. Tammany Parish public school. I am also very active in the disability community, and I know I speak for the majority of parents of the children with disabilities that may not be able to address you today. I have spoken at the Special Education Advisory Panel about promotion/retention policies for Lot 2 students over the past several months. I advocated for the decision of whether a child with a disability is promoted to be made by the IEP team, not just the performance on a standardized test. My son is a very bright, capable student. However, due to his disability, he simply does not perform well on standardized tests. He has severe test anxiety and language deficits that are not addressed on these assessments. It is a blatant discrimination to determine promotion or withhold a diploma based solely on this criterion. In addition, I would like to see policies change related to the grade promotion and the graduation for all students with disabilities, not only those that were eligible for Lot 2 testing. Louisiana policy for retention for low performance and standardized tests is not supported by any evidence whatsoever that the outcomes are improved. Other states recognize these decisions by people closest to them, not on performance standardized tests alone. That is the best way to determine promotion to the next grade level or for graduating with a diploma. I ask that you give all students in Louisiana in the same opportunity. Thank you, Ann Galliano, and I also second that.
Thank you, Ms. Surpass.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
My name is Sherry Hewen. I live in Ponchatoula with my husband and 2 boys, James and Julian. Both of my boys attend public school. James is a junior in high school. He is an A student, and he plans on going to college to become a wildlife veterinarian. James has many open doors and opportunities for success waiting for him. Julian is in 6th grade. He has autism and spends most of his day in the general ed classroom, which he does very well with appropriate supports through his IEP. Julian loves to create animation along with background music. His animations tell stories about animals and people. They are humorous and are enjoyed by anyone who sees them. He learned to navigate the computer all by himself at 2 years old. He didn't speak until he was 5. But what Julian cannot do is pass a state standardized test. So his possibility of a high school diploma are slim. Louisiana currently requires him to pass this assessment. In most other states, Julian would and could earn a high school diploma. I hope Louisiana will join them. There could certainly be a career for Julian in the field of animation. As you decide the outcomes for students with disabilities facing high-stakes testing and their diploma options, I hope you will remember Julian and the children like him who have a lot to offer to the world, no matter the severity of their disability. As long as their doors are open and they are given the opportunity, all children can succeed.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker.
My name is Darla Louviere. I'm a parent of a son with a disability, and I'm going to read a letter from another parent that couldn't be here. It says, Dear Bessie, I have a 6-year-old son who is diagnosed with pervasive developmental disorder, atypical autism with speech and language delay. Myself and my wife do everything possible to support our child in everything he does. A recent evaluation shows our son leaning towards Asperger's. While he currently excels in mathematics, he is still behind in both spoken and written language. I do not want my son to possibly miss out on the opportunity to get a high school diploma because of a vote today by a board who likely does not know the fight all parents with special needs children go through. This is another negative outcome that places a stigma on a child because of a single test. My son, as well as everyone else's child with a disability, is exceptional in so many ways. Why not reward that in an evolved society and not try and suppress people you don't understand? I implore you all to please make the right decision to support all children, not just the ones who are normal based on a single test. Respectfully, Donald Plaisance, Jr. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Ashley McReynolds, and I am a parent to 2 children. My son Cooper has a developmental disability. And as a mother to Cooper, who has a developmental disability in the 1st grade, the years of high-stakes tests are quickly approaching. I, as his parent, have absolutely no problem with him taking any standardized test, but I do have a problem with that test being the only measurement used to decide if he is promoted to the next grade and eventually determine if he has done enough to earn a high school diploma in the state of Louisiana. Currently, I have no idea if Cooper is going to be eligible for Law 2 criteria, but if he does not meet the criteria and he cannot pass the current assessment, he will be 12 before he can be promoted out of 4th grade into 5th grade, and almost 16 before he could be promoted out of 8th into 9th grade. With 57% of students with disabilities not able to pass academic standards such as the LEAP, our current system is setting up students with disabilities for failure, causing many to drop out, and it creates mass confusion in establishing goals and targets, and even penalizes schools for serving students with disabilities. Cooper works so hard every day and is just as deserving as every other student to have a pathway to earn a diploma. Again, I urge you to expand this proposal to apply to all students with disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. I do have another comment card. Ms. Barrios.
Members, if I could just provide some clarity. First of all, I want to thank the speakers for their comments. The speakers' comments touched on a very wide range of policies. They touched on high school diplomas, for example. They touched on 4th grade promotion. They touched on 8th grade promotion. They touched on all students with disabilities. I would ask you just a couple of things. To remember a couple of things. Number one, you passed a policy at our last meeting that essentially changes the idea of 8th grade promotion forever. So in other words, 8th grade students who struggle on the LEAP now are moved into a transitional 9th grade year at the discretion of their local administrators, irrespective of how they do on a test. Likewise, diplomas, while is a very important question, we will have policy to bring to you on high schools, and that will consider students with disabilities. The question in front of you that Ms. Bofi, the Special Education Advisory Panel, and Bridget Devlin on our staff, who has really done an amazing job working through this extremely difficult issue over the last year. The question that has arisen is, how do you address the needs of a relatively small number of students with disabilities, given that there is no longer a test specific to them? Our proposal is to allow the student to move through the grade level and not have to take on some of the harsher consequences of 4th grade promotion. So we're just talking about 1 grade level, that 1 test, those kids. That's a common sense approach to this. These parents who are understandably putting their ideas in front of us are advocating a new policy for all students with disabilities. My sense is we're not disrespecting them by just focusing on these Law 2 kids and doing the right thing for those kids today. A discussion about whether to have no promotion requirements for all students with disabilities is a very far-ranging discussion, from students who may have speech issues all the way to students with some of the disabilities mentioned here and others today. That is a much longer conversation, I think. So I would urge you to see this as a very narrow issue. I would say that we should continue to engage at the advisory panel with parents and advocates such as presented here today. But to accept that for now we do need to do this for this small number of kids. And I want to thank again Ms. Bofi, the entire panel, and Bridget in particular, because they have spent literally hundreds of hours working through this issue with many diverse stakeholders. And I want to thank our parents and advocates, because I think their ideas are very much focused on the right issues. It's just a somewhat of a different question, a much larger question from the one in front of this board today.
I have a follow-up question for the superintendent. So supporting this proposal today does not necessarily preclude us later from considering some of the concerns raised by...
Not at all. Supporting this policy for Law 2 kids does not at all negate the comments they're making, nor does it prevent us from expanding this policy. However, let me explain some of the risks. If we were just to say, well, we're expanding it to all students with disabilities, we run the risk of expanding the promotion standard exemption for some students who are perfectly well suited for the promotion policy. So we would need to really, really comb through this, and I'm open to that. I am open to that and to talking to them about it. I just want you to know that voting for this doesn't stand in the way of that discussion. That's just a much, much larger discussion. Here you're talking about kids in the thousands. In this discussion, you're talking about kids in the 50, 60, 70,000s. And that's just very, very different discussions.
That's helpful. Thank you.
I have a question. Superintendent White, according to this, even if we decided to expand it to all students with disabilities, with IEP, the IEP team will make that determination if that child should receive the promotion or not. So basically, it would still be on the IEP team. And the IEP team is, I'm quite sure composed of a lot of individuals. And the paperwork that's included in reevaluation or initial IEP is very critical because of the federal regulations and guidelines. So I think that even if we do open it up to all students with exceptionalities, that it's still going to be solely on the IEP team to make that decision, because when you do an IEP or reevaluation, we take in consideration the student grades, we take in consideration the student test scores, we take in consideration attendance, we take into consideration the discipline. So it's so many factors that go into what we look at in regards to the reevaluation, and we're not even talking about the initial. I mean, that's way much more intense. So I think that for me, being a part of IEP team, doing this is what I do. It's still going to be solely on the IEP team to make that decision. And I think most of those individuals that have been on those teams have made great decisions for those population of students. And I don't think they would just move students forward just to do that. They'll look at all aspects as well. So that's my perspective.
Yeah, fair point.
Ms. Barrios.
Lee Barrios, St. Tammany. I wasn't going to weigh in on this issue because I think it's well represented by these parents and special ed experts, but I have to respond to a comment that you yourself made, Superintendent White, a few minutes ago. You said that allowing all special ed students to be promoted as per an IEP rather than a standardized test produces a, quote, relative standard of proficiency rather than absolute. That shows, and I'm sure that some of the others of you who have no close relationship with the experience with education, a lack of understanding of the educational process. An IEP represents an individualized educational program. It is relative to the needs of the student, and it's mandated by federal law. And yet this position that would require some special ed students to be assessed through an absolute standard would isolate a component of that individualized education program and make an exception by making a decision for promotion based on an absolute or a standardized test rather than a relative or individualized decision. I believe that if this policy continues, and we're not the only state that's doing this, and Fed Ed supports it, that it's a problem that needs to be sorted out in a court of law because it involves a legal mandate by Fed Ed. Unfortunately, too many top-down ed policies that we've been dealing with may end up in the courts. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments by our BESE members? Well, we have a motion and a second. Is there any objection to the motion?
I object.
Dr. Beebe? Hearing no others, motion passes. Is there anything else to come before our committee? Then we are adjourned. Thank you.